Now, passengers have praised the actions of a pilot who issued a mayday call while flying over the Tasman. The Qantas flight from Auckland to Sydney issued the distress signal about an hour before the plane was due to land, with reports it had lost power in one of its engines.
I think that's when people started to realise that something had gone wrong after the captain said we'd had a problem with the left engine, but didn't think much of it until we landed and saw the emergency services.
It's very, very rare indeed, thankfully, and the pilots did the right thing by calling mayday while they assessed what the issue was and whether it affected one engine or two engines.
Now, engineers have launched an investigation into what went wrong. Joining me now, former Qantas pilot Richard Crespigny, but he's the pilot who successfully landed flight QF32 after one of its engines exploded just 4 minutes after takeoff. Richard, you have been through this. Tell me how rare it is.
It's really rare. Jet engines on commercial aircraft only fail 1 in every 350,000 engine hours. So that's 1 in 4.5 pilots on a 4-engine aircraft will ever see an engine failure in their whole career.
OK, but there's only 2 engines on this. How often do both blow?
Well, if they've only got 2 engines, they'll see 1 in 9 pilots will ever see one. They blow so rarely. The engine on these 737s are like Caterpillar bulldozer engines. Once you start them, they never stop. They're very reliable. Okay. This is unusual. It's not catastrophic. It's unusual. But Qantas did a really good job handling it. All their knowledge, training and experience came into play. They did a great job.
As a pilot, though, does it scare the hell out of you?
No, I've seen about 5 engine failures in my career, and you start to get used to them. It's still startling when it happens, but you're training to aviate, navigate, communicate. In the first 30 seconds, when people are panicking, pilots are putting procedures they've learnt in the simulator into practice. The passengers might be alarmed. This is not usual, and that's true, but the pilots have been trained to do this. They're running through their procedures. They declare an emergency to make sure air traffic control clears the airspace because they'll have to descend to where one engine will sustain flight. That's all normal procedures. They followed procedures. They did a good job. OK,
passengers didn't panic because they didn't know until after they landed. Is that the right thing to do?
Yes. Passengers don't know that things go wrong on aircraft all the time. Even Neil Armstrong faced 10,000 failures when he took off on Apollo 11. So passengers don't realise things are wrong unless it affects them. So if the pilots thought...
Like when yours blew up, that was pretty obvious, I suppose.
They knew that, so we had to tell them and get them involved. I believe some of the passengers weren't even aware that the engine had failed. So if they weren't aware, if there were no extra procedures, why tell them during the cruise and worry them? Because 20% of the people have a fear of flying. Right. Tell them just before descent. Tell them there'll be services on the ground to meet them. They manage that the way they manage lots of failures. That's their prerogative. That's why you have 2 fully trained pilots in the cockpit, and it worked.
Yep, and thank goodness we have great trained pilots to look after us like you. Richard, thank you for that. Good to see you.
Thanks, Koshy.